Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Hashchachadeshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada
Hey,
ki jai,
hey,
Nityananda
Hari
Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. I pretty much greeted everyone, but it was before we recorded, so Kala Prabhu is here in person in the live studios, New Vrindavan. We have Bhakta Adam and we have
Hari.
Ishani Devidasi here. Hare Krishna.
Hi Krishna, thank you for having me today.
And welcome to everyone who tunes in later on YouTube. So, we are on Canto 1, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 7, Son of Drona Punished, Text 38. I anticipate we'll finish this chapter today. So, Hare Krishna. Please repeat if you would like. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayat shrinvatam swakata krishna punya shravana kirtanaha hridyantasto hyabadrani vidhunoti sahrit satam Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Let us develop the urge to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Alright, text 38. Pratishrutam cha bhavata panchalya shrinvato mama aharishye shirastasya yaste manini putraha. Furthermore, I have personally heard you promise Draupadi that you would bring forth the head of the killer of her sons. Tadaso vidyutam papa atatayatma bandhuha vartuscha vipriyam vira kritavan kula pangshanaha. This man is an assassin and murderer of your own family members. Not only that, but he has also dissatisfied his master. He is but the burnt remnants of his family. Kill him immediately. Purport. The son of Dronacharya is condemned here as the burnt remnants of his family. The good name of Dronacharya was very much respected. Although he joined the enemy camp, the Pandavas held him always in respect, and Arjuna saluted him before beginning the fight. There was nothing wrong in that way. But the son of Dronacharya degraded himself by committing acts which are never done by the Dvijas or the twice-born higher castes. Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya, committed murder by killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, by which he dissatisfied his master Duryodhana, who never approved of the heinous act of killing the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas. This means that Ashwatthama became an assaulter of Arjuna's own family members, and thus he was liable to be punished by him. In the Shastras, he who attacks without notice or kills from behind or sets fire to another's house or kidnaps one's wife is condemned to death. Krishna reminded Arjuna of these facts so that he might take notice of them and do the needful. Sutta uvacha evam parikshita dharmam partha krishnena chodata naischa dantum guru sutam yadi apyatmahanam mahan. Sutta Goswami said, although Krishna, who was examining Arjuna in religion, encouraged Arjuna to kill the son of Dronacharya, Arjuna, a great soul, did not like the idea of killing him, although Ashwatthama was a heinous murderer of Arjuna's family members. Purport. Arjuna was a great soul, undoubtedly, which is proved here also. He is encouraged herein personally by the Lord to kill the son of Drona, but Arjuna considers that the son of his great teacher should be spared, for he happens to be the son of Dronacharya, even though he is an unworthy son, having done all sorts of heinous acts whimsically for no one's benefit. Lord Sri Krishna encouraged Arjuna outwardly just to test Arjuna's sense of duty. It is not that Arjuna was incomplete in the sense of his duty, nor was Lord Sri Krishna unaware of Arjuna's sense of duty. But Lord Sri Krishna put to test many of his pure devotees just to magnify the sense of duty. The gopis were put to such tests as well. Prahlad Maharaj also was put to such a test. All pure devotees come out successful in their respective tests by the Lord. Just to magnify the sense of duty. Dr. Adam, remember the question you asked me earlier? I think this is relevant to it. Text 41. Atopetya swashibiram govinda priya saratihi yavedayatam priyaye suchantya atmajan hitan. After reaching his own camp, Arjuna, along with his dear friend and charioteer Sri Krishna, entrusted the murderer unto his dear wife, who was lamenting for her murdered sons. Purport. The transcendental relation of Arjuna with Krishna is of the dearmost friendship. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord himself has claimed Arjuna as his dearmost friend. Every living being is thus related with the Supreme Lord by some sort of affectionate relation, either as servant or as friend or as parent or as an object of conjugal love. Everyone thus can enjoy the company of the Lord in the spiritual realm if he at all desires and sincerely tries for it by the process of bhakti yoga. Tataratam pashivat pashabuddham avamukam karma jigupshitena niriksha krishna pakritam guru sutang vama swabhava kripaya nanamacha. Sri Sutta Goswami said, Draupadi then saw Ashwatthama, who was bound with ropes like an animal, and silent for having enacted the most inglorious murder. Due to her female nature, and due to her being naturally good and well-behaved, she showed him due respects as a Brahmana. Purport. Ashwatthama was condemned by the Lord himself, and he was treated by Arjuna just like a culprit, not like the son of a Brahmana or teacher. But when he was brought before Srimati Draupadi, she, although begrieved for the murder of her sons, and although the murderer was present before her, could not withdraw the due respect generally offered to a Brahmana, or to the son of a Brahmana. This is due to her mild nature as a woman. Women as a class are no better than boys, and therefore they have no discriminatory power like that of a man. Ashwatthama proved himself to be an unworthy son of Dronacharya, or of a Brahmana, and for this reason he was condemned by the greatest authority, Lord Sri Krishna. And yet a mild woman could not withdraw her natural courtesy for a Brahmana. Even to date, in a Hindu family, a woman shows proper respect to the Brahmin caste, however fallen and heinous a Brahmabandhu may be. But the men have begun to protest against Brahmabandhus who are born in families of good Brahmanas, but by action are less than Shudras. The specific words used in this shloka are Vama Swabhava, mild and gentle by nature. A good man or woman accepts anything very easily, but a man of average intelligence does not do so. But anyway, we should not give up our reason and discriminatory power just to be gentle. One must have good discriminatory power to judge a thing on its merit. We should not follow the mild nature of a woman and thereby accept that which is not genuine. Ashwatthama may be respected by a good-natured woman, but that does not mean that he is as good as a genuine Brahmana. Text 43. Uvacha chasa hantyasya bandhananayanam sati uchitam esha brahmano nitaram guruhu. She could not tolerate Ashwatthama's being bound by ropes, and being a devoted lady, she said, "Release him, for he is a Brahmana, our spiritual master." Purport. As soon as Ashwatthama was brought before Draupadi, she thought it intolerable that a Brahmin should be arrested like a culprit and brought before her in that condition. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol Prabhuji, welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Nice
Good to be here.
Jai. We're hearing about Ashwatthama. You know, he killed the sleeping sons of Draupadi. And Arjuna went and tied him up and brought him back to her. And so they just arrived. Krishna just told Arjuna, you need to kill him immediately. But Arjuna didn't want to kill him because he's the son of his teacher. And now he brought him before Draupadi, who's the mother of the kids he murdered. And she's saying, untie him. He's a Brahmana. And she offered respects. So this is exactly where we're at right now.
Oh, thank you. I'll be hearing. Hare Krishna.
Thanks. Nice to have you.
Good to be here.
I'll read the verse again. Text 43. She could not tolerate Ashwatthama's being bound by ropes, and being a devoted lady, she said, "Release him, for he is a Brahmana, our spiritual master." Purport. As soon as Ashwatthama was brought before Draupadi, she thought it intolerable that a Brahmin should be arrested like a culprit and brought before her in that condition, especially when the Brahmana happened to be a teacher's son. Arjuna arrested Ashwatthama knowing perfectly well that he was the son of Dronacharya. Krishna also knew him to be so, but both of them condemned the murderer without consideration of his being the son of a Brahmin. According to revealed scriptures, a teacher or spiritual master is liable to be rejected if he proves himself unworthy of the position of a guru or spiritual master. A guru is called also an acharya, or a person who has personally assimilated all the essence of shastras and has helped his disciples to adopt the ways. Ashwatthama failed to discharge the duties of a Brahmin or teacher, and therefore he was liable to be rejected from the exalted position of a Brahmana. On this consideration, both Lord Sri Krishna and Arjuna were right in condemning Ashwatthama. But to a good lady like Draupadi, the matter was considered not from the angle of shastric vision, but as a matter of custom. By custom, Ashwatthama was offered the same respect as offered to his father. It was so because generally the people accept the son of a Brahmin as a real Brahmin, by sentiment only. Factually, the matter is different. A Brahmin is accepted on the merit of qualification and not on the merit of simply being the son of a Brahmana. But in spite of all this, Draupadi desired that Ashwatthama be at once released, and it was all the same a good sentiment for her. This means that a devotee of the Lord can tolerate all sorts of tribulation personally, but still such devotees are never unkind to others, even to the enemy. These are the characteristics of one who is a pure devotee of the Lord. 44. Sarahasya dhanurveda savisarga pashamyamaha astragramascha bhavata shikshita yadanugrahat. It was by Dronacharya's mercy that you learned the military art of throwing arrows and the confidential art of controlling weapons. Purport. Dhanurveda or military science, was taught by Dronacharya with all its confidential secrets of throwing and controlling by Vedic hymns. Gross military science is dependent on material weapons, but finer than that is the art of throwing the arrows saturated with Vedic hymns, which act more effectively than gross material weapons like machine guns or atomic bombs. The control is by Vedic mantras, or the transcendental science of sound. It is said in the Ramayana that Maharaj Dasharath, the father of Lord Sri Ram, used to control arrows by sound only. He could pierce his target with his arrow by only hearing the sound, without seeing the object. So this is a finer military science than that of the gross material military weapons used nowadays. Arjuna was taught all this, and therefore Draupadi wished that Arjuna feel obliged to Acharya Drona for all these benefits. And in the absence of Dronacharya, his son was his representative. That was the opinion of the good lady Draupadi. It may be argued why Dronacharya, a rigid Brahmin, should be a teacher in military science. But the reply is that a Brahmin should become a teacher regardless of what his department of knowledge is. A learned Brahmana should become a teacher, a priest, and a recipient of charity. A bona fide Brahmana is authorized to accept such professions. 45. So Esha Bhagavan Drona Prajarupena Vartate Tashyatmanoradam Patnyaste Nanvagad Virasu Kripi. He, Dronacharya, is certainly still existing, being represented by a son. His wife Kripi did not undergo a sati with him because she had a son. Purport. The wife of Dronacharya, Kripi, is the sister of Kripacharya, a devoted wife who is, according to revealed scripture, the better half of her husband, is justified in embracing voluntary death along with her husband if she is without issue. But in the case of the wife of Dronacharya, she did not undergo such a trial because she had her son, the representative of her husband. A widow is a widow only in name if there is a son of her husband existing. So in either case, Ashwatthama was the representative of Dronacharya, and therefore killing Ashwatthama would be like killing Dronacharya. That was the argument of Draupadi against the killing of Ashwatthama. Hi, Bol Bhaktasi. Welcome. Now it feels complete. Hare Krishna. Text 46. Tadnarmagya mahabhaga bhavadbir gaudavam kulam vrajinam narhati praptum pujyam vandyam abhikshanasaha. O most fortunate one who knows the principles of religion, it is not good for you to cause grief to glorious family members who are always respectable and worshipful. Purport. A slight insult for a respectable family is sufficient to invoke grief. Therefore, a cultured man should always be careful in dealing with worshipful family members. Marodi Rasya Janani Gaurami Pati Devata Itaham Ritavat Sartarudim Yashrumukhi Muhu. My lord, do not make the wife of Dronacharya cry like me. I am aggrieved for the death of my sons. She need not cry constantly like me. Purport. Sympathetic good lady as she was, Srimati Draupadi did not want to put the wife of Dronacharya in the same position of childlessness, both from the point of motherly feelings and from the respectable position held by the wife of Dronacharya. Yaikopitam brahmakulam rajanya ajitatmabihi tatkulam prarahatyasu shanu bandam sucharpitam. If the kingly administrative order, being unrestricted in sense control, offends the Brahmin order and enrages them, then the fire of that rage burns up the whole body of the royal family and brings grief upon all. Purport. The Brahmin order of society, or the spiritually advanced caste or community, and the members of such highly elevated families were always held in great esteem by the other subordinate castes, namely the administrative kingly order, the mercantile order, and the laborers. It's hard to imagine, actually. At least it is for me. Like the kingly, the ruling class, the kings and the warriors, having that level of respect for spiritual knowledge and the teachers and the priests. It's hard to imagine. Yeah, we can see, like, we can understand it, like, individually, but as a whole, societally, to me, that's like, wow, that's amazing. Text 49. Sutta vacha dharmyam nyayam sukarunam nirvalikam samam mahat raja dharma sutoragya pratyananda dvacho dvijaha. Sutta Goswami said, O Brahmanas, King Yudhisthira fully supported the statements of the queen, which were in accordance with the principles of religion, and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and without duplicity. Purport. Maharaj Yudhisthira, who was the son of Dharmaraj or Yamaraj, fully supported the words of Queen Draupadi in asking Arjuna to release Ashwatthama. One should not tolerate the humiliation of a member of a great family. Arjuna and his family were indebted to the family of Dronacharya because of Arjuna's learning the military science from him. If ingratitude were shown to such a benevolent family, it would not be at all justified from the moral standpoint. The wife of Dronacharya, who was the half-body of the great soul, must be treated with compassion, and she should not be put into grief because of her son's death. That is compassion. Such statements by Draupadi are without duplicity because actions should be taken with full knowledge. The feeling of equality was there because Draupadi spoke out of her personal experience. A barren woman cannot understand the grief of a mother. Draupadi was herself a mother, and therefore her calculation of the depth of Kripi's grief was quite to the point. And it was glorious because she wanted to show proper respect to a great family. Nakula Sahadevascha Yudhano Dhananjaya Bhagavan Devaki Putra Yechanyayascha Yoshitaha. Nakula and Sahadev, the younger brothers of the king, and also Satyaki, Arjuna, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, son of Devaki, and the ladies and others all unanimously agreed with the king. Tatrang marshito bhimastasya shreyan vidhasmritaha avartar natmanas charte yahan saptan shashun vrita. Bhima, however, disagreed with them and recommended killing this culprit, who, in an angry mood, had murdered sleeping children for no purpose and for neither his nor his master's interests. Bhima. Nashamya Bhima Gaditam Drapadyascha Chatur Bhuja Alokya Varanam Sakyuridam Maha Hasan Iva. Chatur Bhuj, the four-armed one, or the personality of Godhead. After hearing the words of Bhima, Draupadi and others saw the face of his dear friend Arjuna, and he began to speak as if smiling. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna had two arms, and why he is designated as four-armed is explained by Sridhar Swami. Both Bhima and Draupadi held opposite views about killing Ashwatthama. Bhima wanted him to be immediately killed, whereas Draupadi wanted to save him. We can imagine Bhima ready to kill while Draupadi is obstructing him. And in order to prevent both of them, the Lord discovered another two arms. Originally, the primeval Lord, Sri Krishna, displays only two arms, but in his Narayan feature, he exhibits four. In his Narayan feature, he resides with his devotees in the Vaikuntha planets, while in his original Sri Krishna feature, he resides in the Krishna Loka planet, far, far above the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky. Therefore, if Sri Krishna is called Chatur Bhuja, there's no contradiction. If need be, he can display hundreds of arms, as he exhibited in his Vishvarup shown to Arjuna. Therefore, one who can display hundreds and thousands of arms can also manifest four whenever needed. When Arjuna was perplexed about what to do with Ashwatthama, Lord Sri Krishna, as the very dear friend of Arjuna, voluntarily took up the matter just to make a solution, and he was smiling also. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahmabandhur Nahantavya Atatayi Padharhanaha Mayaiva bhayam amnatam paripahyanushasanam Kuruprati shrutam satyam yat tat santvayata priyam Priyam ja bhimasenasya panchalyamahameva cha. Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna said, a friend of a Brahmin is not to be killed, but if he is an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasena and me. Purport. Arjuna was perplexed because Ashwatthama was to be killed as well as spared, according to different scriptures cited by different persons. As a Brahmabandhu, or a worthless son of a Brahmin, Ashwatthama was not to be killed. But he was at the same time an aggressor. Also. And according to the rulings of Manu, an aggressor, even though he be a Brahmin, and what to speak of an unworthy son of a Brahmin, is to be killed. Dronacharya was certainly a Brahmana in the true sense of the term, but because he stood in the battlefield, he was killed. But although Ashwatthama was an aggressor, he stood without any fighting weapons. The ruling is that an aggressor, when he is without weapon or chariot, cannot be killed. All these were certainly perplexities. Besides that, Arjuna had to keep the promise he had made before Draupadi just to pacify her. And he also had to satisfy both Bhima and Krishna, who advised killing him. This dilemma was present before Arjuna, and the solution was awarded by Krishna. Didn't really sound like a solution. Sutta Vacha Arjuna Sahasajnaya Harir Hardam Matashina Punim Jahara Murdhanyam Dvijasya Saha Murdhajam. Just then Arjuna could understand the motive of the Lord by his equivocal orders, and thus with his sword he severed both hair and jewel from the head of Ashwatthama. Purport. Contradictory orders of different persons are impossible to carry out. Therefore, a compromise was selected by Arjuna by his sharp intelligence, and he separated the jewel from the head of Ashwatthama. This was as good as cutting off his head, and yet his life was saved for all practical purposes. Here, Ashwatthama is indicated as twice born. Certainly he was twice born, but he fell down from his position, and therefore he was properly punished. Vimucha rashana badam balahatya hata prabham tejasa maninahinam shibira nirayapayat. He, Ashwatthama, had already lost his bodily luster due to infanticide. And now, moreover, having lost the jewel from his head, he lost even more strength. Thus he was unbound and driven out of the camp. Infanticide. Purport. Thus being insulted, the humiliated Ashwatthama was simultaneously killed and not killed by the intelligence of Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Vapanam dravinadanam stanam niryapanam tata esha hi brahma bandhunam badho nanyosti daihakaha. Cutting the hair from his head, depriving him of his wealth, and driving him from his residence are the prescribed punishments for the relative of a Brahmana. There is no injunction for killing the body. Bhutta shokatura sarve pandava saha krishnaya swanamritanam yat krityam chakrur nirharanarikam. Thereafter the sons of Pandu and Draupadi, overwhelmed with grief, performed the proper rituals for the dead bodies of their relatives. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Son of Drona Punished. Woo! Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Next is chapter 8, prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved. But right now we can take conversation points and whatnot. How's everybody has to control their ecstasies. Come back down. One time Badri Narayan Swami he just recently left his body. He came to Denver, and we were having like a brahmachari sangha with him, and I asked him some question. I don't remember what the question was, but I remember he told me directly based on something I asked or something. He was explaining a definition of intelligence of basically consolidating two non-compatible points, two opposite points that are non-compatible, and the ability to consolidate them is intelligence. So this is like a nice example of that, and it's nice to meditate on that. And there's so many situations in life that where we might feel it's either this or that, and it's actually so common, like this is like kind of the like politics, they're like very polarizing viewpoints, and not just politics but anything, but people become very polarized, or like very far to this, leaning this way or that way, and whenever we do that, we can become like imbalance in our intelligence and our view. And in my experience in Krishna consciousness, I've seen devotees become polarized on some topics, and then the really advanced sannyasi or senior devotee, they would go to the senior devotees for some guidance. And I've seen many times where a senior devotee will present like a real right down the middle solution that then is like, oh yeah, like really simple, basic Krishna conscious, but not leaning too far this way or not leaning too far that way, but just right down the middle. And I've seen many times where both sides have been pacified by the deep spiritual intelligence of senior devotee. And so I always thought that was cool, and something to aspire to develop, that kind of thinking, to be able to be sensitive to the circumstances, to understand the concerns, the whatever desires from both standpoints, and to be able to come with something in the middle is very nice. So anyway, just sharing some thoughts. It's also very nice to hear about the culture of like varnashram culture, you could call it, I guess, or like spiritual culture that was present at this time, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And one thing that's nice to hear is like how the mercifulness, and the tolerance, the like Prabhupada said, non-duality. She was not, Draupadi was not, how did he put it? I can't remember exactly. I thought he said she was not having duality or duplicity. I can't remember the word he used.
It was
But
duplicity.
what was it?
It was duplicity. Duplicity.
Yeah, and she was basically selfless. Thinking of Kripi and Dronacharya and all these moral and social considerations, and like, at least for my nature, as soon as Arjuna was like, what? And then he went to go kill him, I was like, yeah. And I didn't think at all about any of these things. So to hear that, it's like, wow, and Maharaj Yudhisthira, you can, there's enough detail here that you can really transport you right to the scene. Everybody's there, Maharaj Yudhisthira, Bhima, and to actually see, the merciful nature of devotees. I mean, this is a huge, like, insane offense, It's not like, It's not like you're serving with your left hand out prasadam at the Sunday feast. This is like it's like so that's also another quality at least myself can aspire for. And I was reflecting that I have heard, I don't really know anything about it, but I've heard that there are like tribes where if somebody does something bad or steals or whatever, they like sit them down and then everybody, the whole tribe comes and like starts telling them what they like about him and positive things about him. And this basically is like, from what I've heard, this is like can be very effective. It's just like it's like when your parents say, "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed," kind of thing, or like if you do something bad, it's bad, and your grandma or your whoever is like really merciful and doesn't get mad and doesn't punish you. It makes you want to do better. Sometimes even more than receiving the heavy punishment. And I was thinking that also. If I was in Ashwatthama's shoes and right there before Draupadi, and she's like honoring me and protecting me, I'd feel like, oh my God, just kill me. Like.
Yeah.
But in a good way, like it's interesting to think about, how love and mercy um, uh, encourages one. Uh, Oftentimes, not always, more than just punishing. I think us as a culture here is we've lost that. Generally speaking, quick to punish. Parents are so stressed out and fried out, and we're talking generations and generations of culture being gradually diminished. So it's like we're like however many generations into parents not understanding the goal of life, not understanding how to teach, not being taught themselves. And it just on and on and on, generation after generation. So it's like we're pretty far removed, but it's amazing how human beings, that we have such a capacity to learn that if we desire strong enough, we can give up all these habits of the mind, habits of the way we're taught and stuff, and become merciful, become aware, become focused, change our priorities and stuff. So it's really amazing, like the level of how do I put it? Basically, like the depth of a revolution that is available in Prabhupada's books. It's really amazing, actually. Yeah. It's if we look at it in this way, it's not such a wonderful or bewildering thought. How to see Srila Prabhupada's vision of how this is meant to create a revolution in modern day society. It basically is. It's like the revolution. But, it's also not easy. But it's amazing, the depth of revolution that is there. Personally, socially, spiritually. Even how to eat, how to bathe. It's amazing. How to raise a family, how to understand and interact with the opposite sex, even. It's amazing. Everything is there, like, really. If we dig deep enough and want it enough, it's to be found there. And I think, if I remember, it's been a long time, but there used to be a sleeve for the Bhagavatams, and there was some writing. I don't know if it was from the introduction or whatever. And it was from somewhere where it was saying, basically, this Srimad Bhagavatam can answer any question that the human mind can formulate, basically. directly or indirectly. So that's pretty cool. And if you ever look at debates, I learned from debates that, in my observation, this may not be the rule, or this is not like Shastra. This is just my realization from understanding general debate or just observing it. Um, Oftentimes, I see there's a debate about a topic, and the person who wins a lot of times just comes with a fundamental, basic truth that kind of trumps the whole debate, and then they end up winning. And so this is what Prabhupada really does. He brings everything to such a fundamental platform of human life, of spiritual life, that uh, it's like if you're shooting a mortar, and if just 1 degree off, it lands a mile away from where it's supposed to land. If the trajectory is just a little tiny bit off, then it's going to be way off the mark. And so, yeah, just the little tweaks on the basic fundamental level can make all the difference in the end game, basically.
Imagine how much Srila Prabhupada wanted to preach, being that he, came over here with like almost nothing on a cargo ship, had 2 heart attacks, didn't go to a hospital. Imagine how much he wanted to like be the way that he is now, be the way that he was whenever he was, because you're right about the fundamental points thing. I made me think of that because Prabhupada really must have wanted to share so much to be so accurate. He must have had such lolium.
Yeah, there was a time when he would go back to the harbor and look at the ships, and just he was just on the brink of going back to India, but he never went. He's
Wow.
at one time he was going back every day. Yeah, and he was having all this trouble. He struggled for like a year, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was going back and like just like he's this close to going back.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, I read that somewhere just recently, and I was thinking, because I was feeling the exact same way in a lot of ways, and I was like, wow. But just like we heard, I think it was in the first purport we read, or one of them, Krishna will test the devotee to magnify his sense of duty.
Yes.
So, yeah, if we can just try to like get grounded in that understanding when we're dealt reversals or challenges, and like ultimately it's meant to bring us more in our Krishna consciousness, and with proper guidance, introspection, we can understand even more detailed and specifically for ourselves how we could do that. We might take it as a general principle, but then we can really learn the details of our own psychophysical nature and fine tune it. There may be certain ways that we could become more Krishna conscious, and don't have to worry about the certain other ways. It's good to explore that and practice that introspection and developing our Krishna consciousness. So, any other points from any other saturated stalwart Atmaramas present? I was freestyling in my car
The
earlier.
Prabhupada is not playing around.
No, and I was freestyling about getting to hear every day with the saturated stalwarts. Anyway, I'm not gonna do it now though. So, Hare Krishna. All right. Well, if that's it, then I'm going to end it here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Vancha kalpa
Yay.
tarubhya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhya vaishnavebhya namo namaha. Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Hi, Prabhudees.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for tuning in.
You're welcome.
Krishna.